Welcome back to the Out of the Rough podcast hosted by We Know Fantasy. I'm going to be your solo host today, Jake. Nate is a little bit busy. I know he mentioned on the last podcast and also tweeted out Monday morning that he's pretty busy. He's got some work stuff he's got to take care of. So I'm going to take this one solo this week. Just quick recap of last week. Hideki gets it done for me, which was huge. Tried punting it away at the end. I lost a couple years off my life trying to sweat that one out. Hovland on, I believe Hideki was on 16. Hovland had a one-stroke lead on 17 and proceeded to bogey 17. The announcers made it sound like the caddy did not tell Hovland his position on the leaderboard. And look, you can go back and forth on if it's a good idea to tell your player or not. In that situation, he had a terrible drive. I don't know the exact timing, just because the broadcast sometimes staggers it. It could have happened at the same time where Hideki comes off of either a bogey or a double bogey. It was a terrible chip. And Hovland has a lead on 17. But, if the caddy had known before, I probably would have mentioned, hey, you're in a really good position here. Don't take any risks off the tee. Finds himself in a terrible position, makes bogey on 17. Obviously, Hideki proceeds to birdie 17 and 18 after going like bogey, double bogey, bogey, 14 through 16. So ended up being a great finish for Hideki, very well deserved. There was some stuff going on. His caddy and some of his team got robbed on the way back from the Olympics or something. So he was with a secondhand caddy, and he manages to get the job done. He played absolutely fantastic. Anyway, let's get into this week. We head over to Castle Pines Golf Club for the BMW Championship. The top 50 in the PGA Tour have made it this week. Very star-studded field. Everyone's here because they deserved it or played really, really golf as of recent. But this course hasn't been played on the PGA Tour in, 15 years or something crazy, 20 years. So no course data, which is nice and fun for handicapping, of course. But anyway, credit to Rick Rungood. I watched his course breakdown. He did a really good job. If you don't know him, definitely give him a follow and check it out. But here's just some takeaways I had from listening to that. So the course reads that it's over 8,000 yards, which to most people, oh my God, it's going to be a bomber's paradise. You have to hit long off the tee to compete. That is simply not true. You're playing in Colorado. You're at elevation. For those of you who don't know, the ball travels a lot better at higher elevation, and the ball and Colorado is very high up in elevation. So, 8,000 yards seems super daunting, but when you adjust it for the elevation, it's actually like a pretty gettable course distance-wise. I still think you need to be relatively long off the tee. You don't need to be a bomber, though. So those people who are saying 8,000 yards, you need to be playing Ken Davis and Rory McIlroy and all those guys, I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that your, slightly above average drivers of the ball, distance-wise, are going to be able to compete just fine this week. But just from the course breakdown, it is going to be an absolute ball striker's paradise. There are a lot of really, really difficult shots on approach, and there's a lot of danger that comes into play. So you need to be accurate. You need to be great off the tee. Let's get that out of the way first. You need to have plus distance, and you need to be accurate. You can't be driving it willy-nilly. It'll depend on how the rough is cut. I haven't seen any videos or interviews from the players yet, but if the rough is thick, the accuracy is going to be very, very important because there are some pretty narrow fairways here. But that being said, even if you are in the fairway, the approach shots are really difficult. There's a lot of water hazards on this golf course. The trees aren't necessarily a problem, but the water is, and they cut right to the greens. So just a slight miscalculation on your approach shots, you're going to be in some deep danger here. You're going to be looking at penalty shots, looking at bogey, double bogey, triple bogey. So just some food for thought here. When I ran my model and looked at player profiles, I weighed gaining off the tee and approach super, super heavily. Being plus with the putter is always going to be a positive, but the around the green game I didn't necessarily put too much weight into. So without further ado, I'm going to structure this a little differently just because I'm going solo. It's a really small field. Personally, I'm taking the week off from DFS. I like to play in the bigger contests, the GPPs, but I can't get behind a 50-man field just because it's impossible to make a unique lineup. And even if you do take down a contest, even if it is single entry or one of the smaller contests, there's a solid chance that your lineup is going to be duped and you're going to have to split the prize. So if you're not playing nearly flawless DFS-wise, it's going to be hard to win a significant amount of money here. So personally, I'm taking the week off from DFS. I'll mention as I go through some player profiles here if I think that they're going to be a good fit for DFS or not. But I'm just going to break down the field as a whole, per se. I haven't put in too many bets yet. I'll mention them as I go through, but I'll kind of break down the odds and some guys that I want to highlight and talk about. So without further ado, let me just get right into it. Let's start with the big three. We got Scotty, Xander, and Rory. So I think that Scotty and Xander are breaking away from that tier, especially with Rory's recent struggles. Last week was abysmal, but Scotty and Xander are playing absolutely phenomenal golf right now. Scotty, as we all know, he's won 8 times on the PGA Tour this season, which is just absolutely insane. When you think of off the tee and ball striking, Scotty is the first player that comes to your mind. He's 1A though. Xander has really been playing some awesome golf, and he's now 1B in both of those categories. He's plus distance off the tee, accurate, and a very solid approach player. So when I'm thinking about both of them from a DFS and even an outright perspective, I think it's splitting hairs when it comes to off the tee and approach. But Xander brings such a valuable upside when it comes to the putter that I can't endorse a Scotty play at 3.5 to 1 when you could get Xander at 6 to 1. At almost double the odds, you're getting the player with the better putting upside. So for me, it's a clear steer clear week of Scotty Scheffler, which is super scary to say. I really am giving some thought to playing Xander as a near single bullet this week just because he's the complete package. He's exactly what I'm looking for. Off the tee, approach, insane putter. Even the around the green is solid for Xander. I know that it hasn't been incredible, but he does have upside of over a stroke per round with it. So I really do favor Xander over Scotty pretty heavily. So if you are playing DFS this week, that is who I would lean at the top of the board. I think it's like a $1,200 or something crazy discount to get, in my opinion, the player with the bigger upside here. So that's just something to think about. I'll talk about Rory for a hot second. I mean, he was really bad last week, like pretty much lost across the board. He brings plus distance, but he's a little wild off the tee, and the putter has been pretty awful. He's lost in 4 of his last 4 starts with the putter. So for me, it's a steer clear of Rory week. If it does turn out to be a Bomber's Paradise, look, Rory's always in play for Bomber's Paradises, so that's something to think about. Let's talk about the next tier. So this 20 to 25-ish range is super interesting, action-packed with guys that have been playing some really awesome golf. I guess a little bit lower into like the teens, but you have Morikawa, who's in at 14 to 1 as we look. He's been playing some great golf. To me, he doesn't bring enough distance off the tee, and he also doesn't bring... Let me reword this. So the putter isn't necessarily Morikawa's strong suit, but he's been putting really well. It's not his strong suit. I don't think he's strong enough to warrant a 14 to 1 number with the putter. I mean, the long irons are going to come into play this week, so Xander is for sure going to be super live in that sense. But for me, I can't do it at 14. I'd sooner play Xander. Next, I'm going to talk about Hideki Matsuyama, last week's winner, playing some incredible golf. It's hard for me to not go right back to him, right? I mean, long off the tee, accurate off the tee. The approach numbers the last couple of weeks have been awesome. He gained 1.7 at the FedEx St. Jude and 1.4 per round at the Olympics. So irons are in touch. Where Hideki tends to struggle and what caps his upside is the putter. And the putter was absolutely phenomenal all 4 rounds last week. So he gained over 2 strokes per round with the putter. So, I mean, if you're going to go to Hideki here, I do not blame you. What does scare me, and I know that this is like ticky-tacky, but when people start to rally around Hideki and there's some buzz around him, in a positive sense, that's usually when he screws everyone over. Last week, it was the caddy getting robbed and not being able to be with him that people were like, I don't know if Hideki's really going to be here. He was very tipped, but this news about the caddy came out after, and it did cross my mind to get out of my position on Hideki because not having your caddy makes it a very uncomfortable position. That being said, in the face of adversity, Hideki tends to shine, and when people talk about him as little as possible. So there does seem to be some more buzz than usual around him, so more of a superstitious thing, but be cautious around him. Someone I definitely need to talk about is Viktor Hovland, who's now at 18-1. He opened at, I believe, like 22 or 25. Look, I'm a big Hovland fan. He's had an absolutely god-awful year, but he had one good week. Are we really jumping on Hovland again at 18-1 after playing some awful golf? He did have a T2. He did look great. He had the lead on the 16th hole on Sunday. I can't get there for him. The around the green is absolutely god-awful. If it comes down to a bunker shot on Sunday on 18, I'm going to feel horrible about myself because I don't think he has what it takes. Even if the around the green is easier than your average course, I can't trust him. The chipping is god-awful. Look, the ball striking came back last week. The off the tee was great. And generally speaking, this course should profile super well for Viktor Hovland, but the long-term stats, I can't. If I'm getting Hovland and Hideki at the same number, give me Hideki 1,000 times out of 1,000 in the current situation that we're at. One more guy I'm going to talk about in this range is Patrick Cantlay. He is trending in the right direction. His last 4 starts are a T3, T5, T25, and a T12. The approach he's gained in all 4 of those. The putter he's gained in 3 of 4. Around the green in 3 of 4. Off the tee he's gained in all 4. So gaining across the board here pretty much over the last month or so. Cantlay's been playing some solid golf. He's coming in at 20-1. It's a little steep, but I think he's trending in the right direction. If you want to go that route, I cannot blame you in the slightest. I like him as a DFS play also if you're going to be playing this week. Just be cautious of ownership. I haven't really looked into it because I'm not playing, but that being said, I think he profiles super well to have a great finish. The win equity with Cantlay is always up for question. He doesn't get over the line as much as he should. That's the better way of me saying it, but I do really like him this week. Next guy I'm going to talk about quickly is Sam Burns. Burns has now been steamed down to 30-1, I believe. Playing some super good golf. I know last week was Bermuda, and that's where he putts his best. T5, and honestly, he probably would have a better chance of winning if he didn't break his driver on Saturday. He tomahawked his driver, broke it in the early stages of his round. That puts you at a severe disadvantage. He shot a 70 on Saturday. He was 4 off the pace. On the 16th hole, I think he was 2 off the pace with a look at birdie on 17 for him to make him tied for the lead. Or an eagle putt on the par 5, but Burns has been playing some really good golf. He has the putter upside. I know we're not on Bermuda this week, but he does carry a great putter. The approach number from last week and over the last 3 weeks has been green. Last week he gained over a stroke per round on approach, which is great. The off the tee, he's plus distance, slightly inaccurate. So I would weigh that as solid off the tee. The approach play has been there, and he has really good upside with the putter. I wish the number was better, or if I caught it earlier. I know some people got some 40s or 45s out there. 30's a little steep for me, but again, I totally understand the play. If you go that route, I cannot fault you at all. I think he's a great DFS play as well. Just catching my breath here. Okay, next we're going to get into the tier of golfer that I started my card at. So these 40 to 50-1 golfers are where I started to look of who has off the tee, approach, and brings upside with the irons. The first guy I thought of was Corey Connors here because he brings it each week. The putter has seemed to cool off, but over the last couple months, he has spiked with the putter over a stroke per round. So he has the putter upside I'm looking for. The ball striking on approach is there. He has not lost strokes on approach all season long, which is super, super impressive. he brings the ability to gain 1, 2, 3 strokes per round even with his irons. And that's pretty much what I could ask for at a guy I'm getting at 45-1. The off the tee is also incredible. Plus distance and accurate. So I'm getting my off the tee. I'm getting my approach. It'll come down to the putter for Connors. But at getting a golfer like that at almost double the odds of the guys that I previously spoke about feels like a no-brainer to me. I have put in my bet on Corey Connors 45-1. And I love him as a DFS play just because of the ceiling he brings. And the current form he's in is absolutely incredible. And his history at the BMW Championship is very, very solid as well. Over his last 4 starts, he finished T50 last week. I think that's why we're getting such a generous number here. But at the Olympics, he finished T9. The Open, T25. And at the Genesis Scottish Open, T10. His past history at BMW Championships, I know it's not the same course, but pressure situation, BMW Championship, a T10 last year, a T5 the year before, T22 the year before that. So playing some really, really good golf, has the tournament history. I feel like it's a no-brainer for him at 45. Next guy I'm looking at, Sungjae Im. I cannot get my finger off of him just because of the golf he's played before the last 2 weeks. So I was on him last week, laid an absolute dud. I was on him the week before at the Wyndham, laid an absolute dud. I'm getting him at 50-1 in a 50-man field where off the tee and ball striking are important. And when you think of Sungjae Im, you're getting both of those things. The distance is up for question, right? He's about tour average, so I'm taking a little bit of a risk there. Generally speaking, extremely accurate off the tee. Gains a pretty solid stroke per round on approach player here. What I like about Sungjae Im is that he's gained with the putter in 6 of his last 6 starts. So the putter is really performing for Sungjae here. It'll come down to the consistency off the tee and consistency with the irons that have become a little bit weary over the last 2 weeks. But overall, over the longer term, he profiles really, really well. His last 3 BMW Championships, a 7th, a 15th, and a 3rd. Tournament history there, long-term profile, 50-1. I'm happy to take my chances on Sungjae Im here this week. Okay, so next I'll talk about a guy who's been very, very heavily tipped on Twitter. I did not get as generous of a number as a lot of people got him at, but I don't even know if I would have taken him at that number per se, but it's Wyndham Clark. He's been steamed down from 45 down to about 33 or 30 now. He seems to have gotten himself back into form a little bit here. A T7, a T14 in his last 2 weeks, gaining across the board in those. But what I'm not loving is that he's not spiking in any area of the game. It's one thing to gain across the board, right? It's great. You're going to have good finishes if you beat the fields in every category of the game, right? But in order to win, as we've seen over the last couple weeks, we had Aaron Rai gaining 2 or 3 strokes on approach and 2 or 3 with the putter. Last week, Hideki, 2 with the putter, 1.5 on approach or something like that. Like, you need to be able to gain over a stroke per round in some categories of the game while gaining in others. And Wyndham Clark hasn't really done that all season except for his win at the AT&T Pebble Beach, which I'd love to caveat that it was only 3 rounds. It got rained out on Sunday and Monday, and they just couldn't get it done. And in that tournament, he gained 3.5 strokes per round with the putter, which is just absolutely nuclear, and I'd argue cannot be repeated. So just my 2 cents on Wyndham. I very well could come back to bite me in the butt on Sunday, but I don't think I would have gotten there at 40, 45 if we're being completely honest. Okay, so let me talk about another guy that seems to be a little bit steamed on Twitter here. It's going to be Davis Thompson. Davis Thompson won pretty recently at the John Deere, and I was first to tout him as a really, really solid off-the-tee guy. Mini Aberg is what I called him last week. Long off the tee and accurate, which is super, super rare and important. He doesn't bring a big enough punch with the approach play. I think that ball striking is going to be super, super important this week, and he hasn't gained over a stroke per round with on approach since the Memorial, which was in the beginning of June, and we're in almost the late stages of August. Even his win at the John Deere, he picked up most of his strokes with the flat stick that week and around the greens. His approach only gained about half a stroke per round in that tournament that he won. So Not super impressive on approach. I know Nate is on him this week, but he's lost on approach in 3 of his last 4. A bit of a cause for concern for me. I cannot get there. I think he's sitting at 60-1. First appearance at the BMW Championship as well, so not accustomed to this high pressure playoff situation on the PGA Tour. For me, it's going to be a steer clear on Davis Thompson. Next, I'm going to go with my long shot play of this week. One of my favorites, Taylor Pendrith. He's coming in at 81. Fully endorsed this play. His last 3 weeks, a T22 last week, a 5th place at the 3M, and a tied for 5th at the Barracuda. I know the Barracuda and the 3M are crap field tournaments where Pendrith should be coming in the top 10. But, I mean, top 5s are great. A T22 last week was really impressive. I believe he played himself out on... Yeah, he really played himself out on Friday and Saturday, shooting 71s. He shot a 65 on Friday and a 67 on Sunday, so he still finished T22. If he was able to just get it together a little bit, he'd be much more in contention. That being said, you're getting plus distance off the tee, so if it does become a Bombers Fest, Pendrith fits the profile really well. He's not generally accurate off the tee, but as of recent, it hasn't been horrendous. He's gained in accuracy to the field in 3 of his last 6. It's not the ideal profile, but we're looking at a golfer 80-1. He's gained in accuracy in 3 of his last 6, like I just said. So if he happens to gain on approach, on accuracy, the distance is there for Pendrith. The approach play has been incredible. He's gained over a stroke per round on approach in 2 of his last 3, and he's gained on approach in his last 6 starts. So playing really well there. Pendrith also brings a very good putter. He has the ability to spike, but he's also gained with the putter in like 7 of his last 8 or 6 of his last 7. So, and in those, he's gained with over a stroke per round in multiple of those. So brings the hot flat stick I'm looking for. Has the approach play trending in the direction I want to see. It'll come down to accuracy off the tee. He also has a win this year on the PGA Tour at the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson. So I love Pendrith. I was on him last week. I'm going to be on him again at 80-1. Definitely someone that I think needs to be considered from a DFS and outright perspective. Someone that I glanced over this week, but I need to reconsider, is my guy Akshay Bhatia. Finished T12 last week, played some really good golf. He gained with the putter like a significant amount over a stroke per round, which he's proven he can now do on the season. Impressive, right? The putter used to be what held Akshay back, and now he has the ability to spike with it. For me, it's the off the tee that's kind of tapered off. He also packed that unique profile similar to Davis Thompson and Ludwig Aberg being long and accurate off the tee. It's still there for him, but it's kind of tapered off the amount that he gains to the field in both those categories. The approach play has been kind of lackadaisical, but he does have the ability to spike. More so than Davis Thompson, and you're getting him at the same number. So if you are deciding between Akshay and Davis Thompson, I'm giving my endorsement here to Akshay Bhatia instead of Davis Thompson because of his ability to spike in the facets of the game. I think I need to think about it. It's one of those that it sucks that I'm not going to, if he wins and I'm not on him, I'm going to be kicking myself from a personal perspective, but I just don't see it happening for Akshay this week, but something to think about. One more guy, let me talk about 2 more guys here. I think we're running at like 25 minutes here, so it'll be about a 30-minute podcast. I'll quickly go over my names for the DP World Tour as well. 2 guys I need to talk about. Nick Dunlap. So Dunlap finished T5 last week in some pretty heroic fashion. Tom Kim finished the tournament 6-6-6 on 16, 17, and 18 to play his way out of the BMW Championship this week, which gave Dunlap the opportunity, having a great Sunday and closing out his week, coming in as the 50th ranked golfer over Tom Kim, qualifying for this week. So he finished T5 last week. He gained over a stroke per round with the putter, over a stroke and a half on approach, and gained almost a half a stroke per round off the tee. He brings the upside right from a young golf perspective, he's won twice this year on the PGA Tour, which is no small feat, especially from a young golfer. He's just 20 years of age, especially, he has a really good story, but a lot of people are betting him. He has the upside. He has a big number next to his name. I believe he's 75. Earlier, if you caught him earlier in the day, he was over 100 to 1. I think 125 I saw out there. I can't do it. 75 to 1 is just not there for me. I think he's a fun player to root for. If he wins, I'm happy to let him beat me, and he's a great story, but I just don't think he gets it done this week. I don't think he brings enough skill set to beat the likes of Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele and some of those bigger names. Last guy I want to talk about is my guy, Will Zalatoris, who finally showed up after a really, really rough stretch of golf. He finished T12 at the FedEx St. Jude last week. He gained across the board. He showed likes of the old Will Zalatoris and the new Zalatoris of the putter being in the green. He gained about 0.7 strokes per round with the putter. The approach play, he gained across the board. So he gained just under half a stroke per round on approach. He gained 0.7 off the tee per round. He's showing likes of his old self, right? It's a little scary to back him here just because it's, again, the reason why I'm not betting Hovland at 18 to 1. If I'm picking between Hovland and Zalatoris, this might be the craziest thing you'll hear. I'm happy to take Zalatoris just because I'm getting him at 75 to 1 versus 18 to 1 Hovland. I truly don't understand why people are going to Hovland. It's too low of a number on Hovland, but I think it's something worth considering for Zalatoris. It's not going to be official tip for me, but it is going to be a personal play. So if you were curious, I do have Zalatoris in the background, but I am not tracking it because I just don't think it's a tip that I would advise other people to do. It's one of those, he's one of my favorite golfers. I saw some hope last week, and I'm going to hope that he can try to piece it together this week and build off of his performance last week to potentially get the job done here. So that's my field breakdown for the BMW Championship. If you have any other questions on golfers or what to do, be sure to join our Discord. Completely free to join. It'll be on Twitter. You could DM me or Nate. So Nate is at WKF I'm at the Jake Friedman. Be sure to DM us. Neither of us are going to have articles this week. We're just too busy. I've decided to put my time into recording this podcast now instead of writing the article. Nate's busy with work and such, so be sure to be on the lookout for our Twitters. If you have any questions at all, DFS, outright related, be sure to join our Discord or to just DM us directly on Twitter. Happy to have a discussion, happy to talk about some ideas that you might have, or if you're questioning some of the rationale around our plays that we'll be posting, be sure to reach out to us. That being said, I'm just going to run through my card on the DP World Tour quickly. I'm not going to go through in depth on my rationale for the picks per se, but I will give you my picks in case you're curious. So the Danish Golf Championship, I weighed this super heavily on recent form, in particular on what we saw last week, because a lot of these golfers haven't played in close to a month before last week, so it's hard, right? It's a new golf course too, I believe, so I'm going very much on recent form. I'm going with Andy Sullivan at 50 to 1. There's a pretty big odds discrepancy on him, and he played some solid golf last week, so I was happy to go to him. Brendan Thompson Robinson, he took the Twitter world by storm, really, in the DP World Tour. He had a great finish last week. I believe he was playing on the Challenge Tour. He opened at 75, got steamed down to 55. I believe he's sitting at 50 now. I would not be surprised if that gets steamed down any harder. The stage was not too big for him. That's why I was happy to go back to him, even though the number was steamed down. Still getting a fair price, in my opinion, on a golfer like that. Paul Waring, another guy playing some great golf. I got him at 60 to 1. Adrian Stadier playing some great golf as of recent and last week at 60 to 1. Joe Dean. So golf Twitter was all over this guy last week, because he had played some really good golf the weeks before. He was gaining across the board, which is pretty rare in the DP World Tour. These guys tend to struggle in one or two areas of the game, and when they do win, it's because they happen to break even or pop in that area that they struggle in. Dean's one of those guys that just gains across the board, and he had a really, really disappointing week, so I think some people are off of him. I'm happy to grab him again at 66-1 because I like his long-term profile here. And my long shot is going to be Todd Clements at 110-1, playing some really good golf as of recent. I think 110-1 is fair. So that's the route that I took. If you're curious about some more detail about my plays or Nate's plays, be sure to join the Discord or the DMS on Twitter, like I said before. But I'm going to wrap it up now. Be sure to check out WeKnowFantasy.com. You can find mine and Nate's articles, generally speaking, on there. Follow us on Twitter at WKFNate, at the Jake Friedman on Twitter. We post all of our content on there. We have some Discord exclusive stuff, so our Discord completely free to join. We have a community of 200 plus members now where we talk not just PGA Tour, but DP World Tour, Korn Ferry Tour, Live Tour, LPGA. A lot of really knowledgeable people in there, hitting winners left and right, not necessarily Nate and myself, but generally speaking, we have it covered in there. So if you find not just Nate or myself, if you find some other guys that you find their insight valuable and are curious in their picks, there's a channel in there for official picks everyone. So if you join and you want to share your picks and your rationale, there's an opportunity for you to do that as well. So be sure to join, completely free. But yeah, that's it for the BMW Championship this week. I hope everyone has a great week. Be sure to gamble responsibly, and if you have any questions, be sure to DM us. But good luck, and I will see you guys next time. See ya.